Disappearing Earth by Julia Phillips. In the first chapter of this assured debut novel, two young girls vanish, sending shockwaves through a town perched on the edge of the remote, brooding Kamchatka Peninsula. What follows is a novel of overlapping short stories about the various women who have been affected by their disappearance. Each richly textured tale pushes the narrative forward another month and exposes the ways in which the women of Kamchatka have been shattered, personally, culturally and emotionally, by the crime. The Topeka School.
By Ben Narnett.
Lerner's exhilarating third novel, after leaving the Atocha station in 1004, rocks an emphatically American amplitude, ranging freely from parenthood to childhood, from toxic masculinity to the niceties of cunnilingus, from Freud's Oedipus complex to Tupac's All Eyes on Me. Adam Gordon returns as the protagonist, but this time as a high school debate star, and mostly in the third person. Equal portions of the book are given over to the voices of his psychologist parents, and to a former classmate whose cognitive deficits are the inverse of Adam's gifts. The earlier novel's questions about art and authenticity persist, but Adam's faithlessness is now stretched into a symptom of a national crisis of belief. Lerner's own arsenal has always included a composer's feel for orchestration, a ventriloquist's vocal range and a fine ethnographic attunement. Never before, though, has the latter been so joyously indulged, or the bubblicious texture of late Clintonism been so lovingly evoked.
Exhalation.
By Ted Chiang. Many of the 9 deeply beautiful stories in this collection explore the material consequences of time travel. Reading them feels like sitting at dinner with a friend who explains scientific theory to you without an ounce of condescension. Each thoughtful, elegantly crafted story poses a philosophical question. Chiang curates all 9 into a conversation that comes full circle, after having traversed remarkable terrain.
Lost Children Archive.
By Valeria Luiselli.
The Mexican author's third novel, her first to be written in English, unfolds against a backdrop of crisis, of children crossing borders, facing death, being detained, being deported unaccompanied by their guardians. The novel centers on a couple and their 2 children, all unnamed, who are taking a road trip from New York City to the Mexican border. The couple's marriage is on the brink of collapse as they pursue independent ethnographic research projects, and the woman tries to help a Mexican immigrant find her daughters, who've gone missing in their attempt to cross the border behind her. The brilliance of Luiselli's writing stirs rage and pity, but what might one do after reading such a novel? Acutely sensitive to these misgivings, Luiselli has delivered a madly elusive, self-reflexive, experimental book, one that is as much about storytellers and storytelling as it is about lost children. Nightboat to Tangier by Kevin Barry. Advertisement. A desolate ferry terminal on the Spanish coast isn't a place where you'd expect to encounter sharp-edged lyricism or rueful philosophy, but thanks to the 2 Irish gangster anti-heroes of Barry's novel, there's plenty of both on display. Along with scabrously amusing tale-telling and much summoning of painful memories, their lives have become so intertwined that the young woman whose arrival they await can qualify as family for either man. Will she show? How much do they care? Their banter is a shield against the dark, a witty new take on Waiting for Godot. Say Nothing by Patrick Radden Keefe. Masked intruders drag Jean McConville, a 38-year-old widow and mother of 10, from her Belfast home in 1972. In this meticulously reported book, as finely paced as a novel, Keefe uses McConville's murder as a prism to tell the history of the Troubles in Northern Ireland. Interviewing people on both sides of the conflict, he transforms the tragic damage and waste of the era into a searing, utterly gripping saga. The Club.
By Leo Damrosch.
The English painter Joshua Reynolds just wanted to cheer up his friend Samuel Johnson, who was feeling blue. Who knew that the Friday night gab sessions he proposed they convene at London's Turk's Head Tavern would end up attracting virtually all the leading lights of litigative 18th century Britain? Damrosch brings the club's redoubtable personalities, the brilliant minds, the jousting wits, the tender camaraderie, to vivid life, delivering indelible portraits of Johnson and Reynolds, Edmund Burke, Adam Smith, the actor David Garrick, the historian Edward Gibbon and, of course, Johnson's loyal biographer James Boswell, a constellation of talent that has rarely if ever been equaled. The Yellow House by Sarah M. Broom. In her extraordinary, engrossing debut, Broom pushes past the baseline expectations of memoir to create an entertaining and inventive amalgamation of literary forms, part oral history, part urban history, part celebration of a bygone way of life. The Yellow House is a full indictment of the greed, discrimination, indifference and poor city planning that led her family's home to be wiped off the map, tracing the history of a single home in New Orleans East, an area 50 times the size of the French Quarter, yet nowhere to be found on most tourist maps, comprising scraps of real estate whites have passed over, from the 60s to Hurricane Katrina. This is an instantly essential text, examining the past, present and possible future of the city of New Orleans, and of America writ large.